Star Wars The Last Jedi is the worst movie ever made. Am I right? Alright, I don't think it's the worst movie. I mean, I actually kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Why do you think it was, bad? Oh my gosh. Seriously? It's just bad. How could you like that? Like, piece of garbage. Am I right? Oh my gosh. It's so bad. It's just so bad. It's pretty good. I think it's great. I mean, it's got a really great script, you know, with a well thought out characters and character journeys for everyone. They all kind of share a similar theme. I really enjoyed my experience with The Last Jedi. I didn't have much problems with it. I mean, why did you think it was garbage? It's just, oh my gosh, it's just bad. Oh, it's just so bad. It's just bad. I don't know what else to say. It's just bad. I mean, you just don't get it. It's just bad. It's not a real Star Wars movie. Luke wouldn't do that. That's not how the Force works. I wish Rian Johnson were dead. Kathleen Kennedy was preaching at me. Rose was played by an Asian American woman. Too far. And it's just bad. First of all, not all of that is true necessarily, and second, not all of those things have anything to do with why it's bad, and shouldn't have to do with why it's bad. Oh no, I'm slowly realizing that Twitter never gave me a good reason as to why The Last Jedi is bad. Wait a minute, The Last Jedi might be actually good. Oh no, no, it can't be good. It isn't good. This guy just doesn't get it. I'll just have to bring out the big guns. The thing is, Star Wars? It's really important to me. I've just grown up with it all my life. Nailed it. Right, because I didn't grow up with Star Wars either, watching the movies over and over and over again and studying them consistently and having extremely meaningful experiences with the franchise either. You're right, that must be it. Thank you for pointing out to me that I didn't care about Star Wars before this. Oh yeah, sure, hey, no problem. Hey everybody, happy May the 4th. Welcome to Film Fireside. I'm so happy to be talking about Star Wars on here. Obviously this was satire, so not every conversation has been that way exactly. This is just more or less some of the highlights of all the cringy things I've heard in defense of hating The Last Jedi. Hence my whole little bit at the beginning. Star Wars is just not that fun to talk about sometimes just because it's so polarizing and offensive for some reason when it like shouldn't be. That's what just drives me nuts about Star Wars haters. I mean fans, sorry, sometimes they just mix those two up. There's really no pleasing Star Wars fans. They will never be happy with the franchise. We could get into all day about why that is and, you know, analyzing that, but typically it's just frustrating because there seems to be like this high classness among Star Wars fans where, oh, well, if you don't hate the same movies I hate, clearly you just don't understand Star Wars. It's really sad to me. I don't want Star Wars, which is something a lot of people love, to like be treated that way. It's just so stupid. Any director who takes on a Star Wars film is immediately just thrust into an abusive relationship with the Star Wars fans. If the Star Wars fans is the husband and any director who directs it is like a 50s housewife, it's kind of like the husband who just consistently beats his wife for not getting the meat just right. And when she asks, how do you want it? And the husband responds, I'm not supposed to tell you, you're supposed to just know. Oh, that was dark. That went really dark. But seriously though, Star Wars fans don't even know what they want either when it comes from the movies. One reason I think perhaps we live in this world, I think there are fans, a big majority of the fans who are about the Star Wars product. And not so much like the cinematic film side of it. And therefore when critiquing it, they're critiquing the newness of the product they are getting, not the film in and of itself. I personally like Star Wars for the film aspects of it, the quality of film, the choices made, the writing, the character journeys that we are seeing. the product of how good the lightsaber fights are, or how big the explosions are, or the CGI. I don't really, that's inconsequential to me. That's something that's just part of the environment of Star Wars, not what Star Wars is. You know what I mean? There's probably like a bazillion reasons as to the polarizingness of fans as far as Star Wars goes. It's really dumb. I don't like it. I think it needs to change though, because as of right now, these are the type of people who are going to dictate the future of Star Wars films.
This is a nightmare!
That's what we got going on from Star Wars fans right now. That needs to change. I think the thing that ticks me off the most about this, last thing and then the rant's over, and I'll get to my point of ranting. I very frequently, I made this little bit at the beginning, I very frequently am told, because I like The Last Jedi, oh, well, see, you didn't grow up with Star Wars the way I did. Screw you! I grew up with Star Wars the way you did. What does that have to do with anything? And even if I didn't, what does that have to do with anything? I love all Star Wars films I've seen. I really have. At least to a certain extent, I've at least appreciated them. Quite frankly, I'm the one who's defending Star Wars here. And I'm not the real Star Wars fan? What? Talking with, like, toxic fans about Star Wars is a joke. Now that being said, I understand criticisms of the movie. That's totally fine. And here comes the challenge I would like to issue you. Watch some of your favorites. Watch some of the goodies. Also, watch the ones you don't like and find the good in them, because there's so much good, and at least some good in every Star Wars movie. So the goal of this video, I'm going to talk about each trilogy individually. I'm just going to go 1 to 9. Even if there's a Star Wars movie within here that's not my favorite, and there are, I'm going to find the good in it. I'm going to talk about the good in it. Because on this, the day of Star Wars, May the 4th, I want it to be fun to talk about Star Wars again. I don't want to contribute in any way, shape, or form to the toxic environment. Quite frankly, I could, and it would be easy as hell. It would be the most simplest thing I've ever done to just sit here and tell you everything wrong with Star Wars. I can make them up, just nitpick, and it would be the easiest thing to do. We all know the flaws. It's not hard to go and find the flaws in Star Wars. So I'm not gonna do that. I don't wanna do that. I want to really test myself to find something really meaningful about each and every one of these films. When I come to the end of a trilogy, I'm going to give one of the films within that trilogy the Fireside Award. We'll call it a Firesidey. Boo! Meaning, it's just my favorite from the trilogy. So that's how I'm going to rank these films. I'm just going to pick a favorite from each trilogy, give it the Firesidey Award for best Star Wars film within that trilogy. Very prestigious, very important. Prequels start off with number 1, Phantom Menace. I really enjoy the Phantom Menace. That was, for me, just as a kid growing up, this was just like, oh my gosh, everything about this is so cool. It was a whole new level of Star Wars. I think this was the type of technology George Lucas really wished he had when making the OG trilogy. Watching The Phantom Menace now that I'm older, one of my favorite things about it is there is a really intricate script here. In my opinion, especially this first movie is much more letting us know the way Palpatine has been manipulating the system the whole time.
Now they will elect a new chancellor. A strong chancellor. One who will not let our tragedy continue.
And I think it's a really good commentary just on government in general and the potential to manipulate within a governmental society. And he's just really good at placing himself in this place of service and trying to help anybody and everybody, and how he uses that to work his way into the system and into power. This has the best lightsaber duel out of all 9 films. Hands down, the lightsaber duel between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan, forget about it. It is the best. Best lightsaber duel. I love it so much. It's like literally frequent this film, and sometimes it's just for that amazing lightsaber duel. It's really awesome. That's one thing about the prequels that are really great. They took all the lightsaber duels and really amped them up quite a bit, so that's pretty awesome. Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson are very well cast in this film as well. Their chemistry is really, really nice. It's really good. They work well together. They're just great actors, and they handle this very, very well. Phantom Menace is great. I love the Phantom Menace. It's a good one. I think the main thing to appreciate about Attack of the Clones is just the battle scene at the end. I have not seen a better battle scene from like, honestly, it almost feels like any movie, you know what I mean? It is just such a cool, well thought out Star Wars battle scene. Like, my goodness, that it has so much crazy, amazing things happening throughout it. And just like the end fight scene with that one with Count Dooku is pretty cool also. And then Yoda, I was all for Yoda just like jumping all over the place. I thought it was freaking awesome, you know? Attack of the Clones is where we start to see the story be a little more about Anakin and his journey to Darth Vader. I think the main value this movie has for me, and I would do this even as a little kid, I would just skip to the end battle scene just as soon as like well, actually, I think I would skip to when Padme, Anakin, and Obi-Wan are like about to be sacrificed in that like Geonosian Roman Empire or Roman gladiator arena thing with those monsters. That part's really fun and interesting, and leading into the Jedi showing up and leading into just this like epic battle and whatnot. It's really, really cool. It's really, really interesting to see that this is how the Clone Wars begin and move forward. That's all I got for Attack of the Clones. Moving on. Revenge of the Sith. I frequented this film frequently. Boo! I revisited this film a lot. I really enjoyed, and I do enjoy now, Revenge of the Sith. I actually watched this one just recently and thinking about this video. I really, really liked this movie. I have a lot of respect for this movie. I feel like what this feels to me, and you kind of get the sense that I think like George Lucas made the trilogy to get to this point, because I think the first and the second one felt more or less like exposition to set us up for what was going on here and helped us kind of appreciate more what was going on here, and therefore to take that story into like a dark place and to watch like just sad, awful things happen to the Jedi Order. It's a rough film. It really is, you know? It doesn't end happy, and I think we all kind of went into this trilogy knowing that, the prequel trilogy, knowing that this isn't going to end well because we know Anakin's fate here, and to watch that journey is always very, very interesting. The other lightsaber duel that almost as good as the one in Phantom Menace is Anakin and Obi-Wan's duel. The emotion in this film, this really does, there's a lot of things that spark an emotional response for me. I honestly think it is kind of like even the camera work and maybe the structure of the script that allows this emotional response from me. Ewan McGregor gives a great performance, as he always does. He's like Ewan McGregor, he's great. He really contributes that as well. Natalie Portman too, really just breaks your heart at certain points in this film. There's a lot of things that really support the situation here and support what's happening, so it becomes a little more believable, maybe even the most believable of these first three films. Revenge of the Sith is a powerful movie. It is a powerful movie. It really is. It stuck with me. Okay, it's time for the prequel trilogy. The Fireside goes to Revenge of the Sith. What can I say? It's my favorite. On to the next trilogy. Going into number 4, A New Hope. This trilogy is just so good. There's so much charm and there's so much wonder that exists in seeing special effects attempted before the technology was even there. This is where it all began. What else can I say? This is gonna be a hard trilogy to talk about because like they're all perfect. What can I say? I think A New Hope, the charm of A New Hope is in that it is groundbreaking. Literally, this changed history. No one thought, who was producing this film, no one thought it was going to be a success. Absolutely nobody. This film changed the game forever. It is always going to be, everyone will know Star Wars from here on out, and that's such an awesome thing. The other thing too about this that's really cool, I think it could be argued. There's a lot of hype films that I watch now and be like, oh, okay, I could see how at the time that was really popular. The hype is still justified even today. I get hyped when watching these films. They're good. They're just good movies. They're extremely well-made movies. That's why I, as a Star Wars fan, I much prefer like a good movie first, other than making sure all the other logistical explosions and lightsaber duels are exactly what they are supposed to be. I want a good movie first. And this trilogy, it was about making a good, solid movie with good, solid characters and a good, solid story. There really isn't that much like cheesiness laced within it. And that's just something about this that's just so cool. And I think Star Wars fans need to remember. There was a time when like talking about the Force and things like that didn't exist. And this film really took a bold chance and telling a very unique and kind of strange even story that is so based in kind of truth and reality. Not so much that, you know, there is a real Force or Jedis or whatever, But concept of the Force, this concept of becoming who you're meant to be, fulfilling your destiny, finding what is out there for you, that's such a good story that's based in so much truth. And so therefore, amongst weird alien creatures, Tusken Raiders, and Jabba the Hutts, and really odd sounding planets, that's what allowed all this to work, is that the core value and message and characters are based in truth. And it's just amazing. I love it. And it just gets better and better from here on out. A New Hope, what can I say? It's a film that started it all. Empire Strikes Back. Okay, again, kind of going back to how I ended my last point. We gotta remember, there was a time when there was no Yoda. There was a time, there was a time in history where no one knew who Yoda was. There was also a time in history where nobody thought Luke and Darth Vader were related. Nobody thought Darth Vader was Luke's father. No one even was ready for that. What I love about this film is just they continue with the risks. The smart move, I think, in my opinion anyway, from approaching this film is, okay, we established a universe. Let's not get too crazy. Not for George Lucas. A weird green little alien that's exiled who is a Jedi Master. Luke and Darth Vader are somehow related. Bringing those things to the table, by all accounts, shouldn't have worked, in my opinion. And quite frankly, I think something we forget about The Empire Strikes Back is for a lot of people, it didn't work. I've always said, if I could go back to a moment in history, I would really like to be there opening night of Empire Strikes Back, knowing what I know and just watch everyone in the theater. You have no idea. It is reported that some people were really taken aback by that. Empire Strikes Back did not hold back in taking risks. The story ends in a place of more or less defeat and conflict and gives us something to hope for and look forward to in the sixth film. Just as iconic, just as well thought out and methodical, really ingenious story. Again, the more we're learning about the Force and the more with Luke's training is really, that's all based in truth still for Luke's character and the situation here. There's so much to love about The Empire Strikes Back. It's a great one. Really great one. Return of the Jedi. Last film of this franchise, we see Luke starting off as a trained Jedi Knight. That was really cool to see him change and have become a better version of himself. The whole opening scene of like Jabba's palace and everything like that, that entire like plot, it's a really awesome, well thought out scene. Well structured, at least for me. It may not have had much to do with the whole point of defeating the Empire, but it was about getting their buddy Han back, and it was really well executed and well done. I love the opening scene of Return of the Jedi. It's one of my favorite like Star Wars action fight scenes that has ever taken place. Return of the Jedi has just as much to offer as the other Star Wars films. This conflict and this idea that Luke has the potential to turn to the dark side. Star Wars is pretty on the nose about like good and bad. Perhaps it would be more realistic to make the dark side something a little more subtle and something a little more based in like reality that people can, that it's not just, I'm turning to the bad side. I'm gonna be a bad guy. And other films I think have kind of explained that the dark side isn't just, or at least as perspective of those who are on the dark side of the Force, that they don't view it as being evil necessarily. They view it as another aspect of the Force that's more powerful. What's cool about this is I like to see Luke's potential to fall into that. We see how easy it can be for one to slip into the dark side. And what that means for Luke, specifically as he's sitting there in a stressful situation, being really challenged mentally and emotionally, and how hard he fights and how good he is at fighting it still is beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love when he is there just wailing on Darth Vader and catches himself.
Never. I'll never turn to the dark side.
Beautiful. One of the most epic moments in cinematic history. Really, I get chills and I want to cry like every time. The idea that you can fight the bad that's within you. Oh my gosh. Because everyone can relate to that. You don't have to be a Jedi to want to turn to the dark side. You can fight that. That's a beautiful message to me. Return of the Jedi is great. I love Return of the Jedi. Okay. My film Fireside goes to Return of the Jedi. My opinion, George Lucas just got better and better and better with this trilogy. Just boom, boom, boom. Knocked him out of the park and just kept giving us more and more and more to love and appreciate. So yeah, Return of the Jedi. This is my favorite one. My favorite trilogy. Okay, let's get into the Disney. We start off with The Force Awakens. Finn and Rey are great characters. I love Finn and I love Rey. Their motivations in this movie are so clear and so believable. I want those things they want as well. Finn's trying to change from a life that he was just stuck in and he was more or less forced into. That's a really beautiful story, and what the things he's willing to do, and sometimes even the things he shouldn't be willing to do, but he is, just to get away from that life, is very admirable to a certain extent when he's being admirable about it. But regardless, Finn is a very, very likable character. Rey is an amazing hero within the Star Wars universe. I think she's perfect. Another thing I like about this film, most other Star Wars movies, we see the villains very like established and trained. It's really cool that we have a villain who is in training, but already has just this strong, strong connection to power just naturally. A cool perspective to approach a Star Wars story from. So that was one thing I really enjoyed and appreciated about this. I think this one was structured very well. I really did appreciate the structure. To me, it's very fast-pacing and engaging. Even when maybe things are kind of slow and we're getting exposition, it's done in a way that's very engaging still. So I definitely appreciate that. I think J.J. Abrams, specific with this film too, he had a good eye for like cinematography in mind. Very specifically, the scene just before Kylo kills Han Solo, you see just from the natural light shifting. To symbolize Kylo taking another step toward the dark side by making a decision to kill his dad. Brutal scene, by the way, and beautifully done. Beautifully, brutally. Boo! Force Awakens is great. Love it. Awesome. Let's move on. The Last Jedi. Oh my goodness. What a unique, wonderful take on the Star Wars universe. I don't think I've seen a film where you see characters fail so hard. I love that. I love seeing characters make mistakes and not just make the mistake, but like know they're making the mistake and watch them deal with that and even learn from it. Very specifically, I think Poe has a really cool journey in this. I didn't really think we were going to get much from Poe as a character, but it was really awesome to see him come back and be a more strong have a more strong role within this movie. His journey within this film really sticks out to me. I really appreciate Poe Dameron's character and the lessons he learns throughout this story. You see him grow in this story. It's really, really awesome. Another character, this film is more of a character study, and I love character study films where we just kind of take people and just kind of like analyze them and tear down their walls, do things to them that get them to show their true selves, and then have us as an audience learn from that. Luke Skywalker his character is so, ooh, it's just so beautiful. I love everything that's happening with Luke. I mentioned this in Return of the Jedi, but you see in that movie where he starts to just wail on Darth Vader. So there's this potential to slip still, and I love that idea that just because, oh, okay, I threw that lightsaber down once, that you don't have to do it again. That's so true. We as people can't just become a hero and then all of a sudden stay a hero. We gotta make sure we're doing the things to keep us from dipping back into that again. And it's so awesome to see him almost make that mistake again. And not even make the mistake, almost make the mistake, and the consequences that gave. That's painful. Oh, that's so painful. It's such a brutal, truthful story. I loved it so, so much. And then, which resulted into one of the greatest scenes in Star Wars history. Again, not for the action, not for the war scenes. I've listed that there are some other ones in other trilogies that have done it much better. The scene between Luke and Master Yoda.
But weakness, folly, failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is.
I get chills every time I watch that movie. I frequent this film a lot, actually. I love this movie. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There are things happening with Finn and Rey as well that they're going through and experiencing. Rey's and Kylo Ren's relationship is one of the best relationships within any Star Wars universe. It's so unique and interesting and bizarre, and yet beautiful to watch take place and unfold. And especially to see where that leads us in Rise of Skywalker. So that's a good transition. I think the character work in this film is one of my favorites. Let's go into Rise of Skywalker. My favorite parts of this movie really happen probably from like, all of them just happen from like the middle of the movie all the way to the end. That fast-paced energy exists within this one as well, in the form of like, okay, we gotta go here, now we gotta go here, now we gotta go here, now we gotta go here. That's really cool, and it's great, and I think the journey of where that leads, and again, J.J. Abrams was the director on this one too, and you can see his using cinematography to tell the story and to symbolize specific things that are happening within characters. Very specifically, I really loved Kylo Ren and Rey's lightsaber duel on that one water planet where the Death Star crashed. That ends with Rey killing Kylo Ren, and this idea that after sticking a lightsaber through him, Rey then takes time to heal him. Just the image of that part of that missing part of him being made whole was beautiful, and that after that, that's really what sparked a change in him. Because he's always had good, and you see that throughout. Kylo Ren, I didn't realize it in the first movie. I think not till like The Last Jedi that I realized how deep and meaningful a character Kylo Ren was within this franchise, and they really solidify and finish his journey just very, very nicely within the 9th movie. One thing I want to explain about this movie, I wasn't going to get into negatives, but this is one I think people should need to understand. The Emperor is dead. His journey in the original trilogies was worthwhile. That's something I didn't really realize at first. Because I was kind of like, oh, I guess the Emperor didn't die. There is a very specific force power that the dark side has that basically allows you to kind of zombify yourself. I'm speaking in layman terms. There's a specific name for it and a specific name for what's happening to him. But obviously you see him, he's like pretty zombie-like. So no, he's not like alive. He is dead still, but he's just working and trying to manipulate a system from the other side of the grave. You know, that's the conflict being faced, not, he never died. That's not what happened. That's not the thing that's happening there. Recognizing that and understanding that kind of makes me appreciate things about that a little more. And just appreciate Rey at the end just laying there and all the Jedis from before, giving her encouragement. That's really cool. Rise of Skywalker, not bad. My film Fireside award for the newest trilogy is The Last Jedi. I mentioned this in my unpopular opinion video. You know I love The Last Jedi. I will defend The Last Jedi to the day I die. But granted, I know it has problems. I recognize the flaws within the film. And not every person who's mentioned to me their dislikes of the movie have given the things I said before. There are some legitimate criticisms. And I'm like, I can understand and appreciate. But I wasn't going to talk about those today because that's all anyone ever talks about with Star Wars movies. So thank you for watching and joining me on this journey of just remembering Star Wars movies. Watch your favorite Star Wars movies today. Play your favorite Star Wars video games. Read your favorite Star Wars books. Let's just love Star Wars today. Let's not debate. Let's not get into these like idiotic fights about something that's just supposed to be fun and make us happy. It makes me happy. I hope it makes you happy. Drop in the comments, what's your favorites of the trilogy? Give me your favorites within each trilogy. Your favorite movies from each trilogy of Star Wars. I want to hear what you have to say. Happy Star Wars Day, everybody. May the Force be with you always. Comment, like, subscribe. Bye-bye.